This is the Shaver Prep Football Podcast, episode 21, presented by Aquarius Home Services and brought to you by True Stone Financial and Culver's. And we'll name our Culver's Player of the Week in just a few minutes. Congratulations to Cam Hungerholt of Leroy Ostrander. He is Minnesota's Mr. Football, named on Sunday. Cam led the state in rushing with over 2,800 yards and 36 touchdowns. He accounted for 5,267 total yards and 70 touchdowns, plus made 94 tackles on defense. An amazing season and career for Cam Hungerholt. Cam was part of the All-Star game played at U.S. Bank Stadium on Saturday as the South battled the North. 88 of the state's top seniors took part. It was a blast. The South ended up winning 24-10, but some outstanding performances as Daniel Jackson of Alexandria made a 54-yard field goal for the North, only to be topped later by Luke Ryersey's 57-yard field goal for the South, a record day. But the final score was not as important as the experience. It's pretty cool to mix small-town football stars with Metro players and see the respect each has earned. The MFCA and the Minnesota Vikings deserve a lot of credit for making this all-star experience special. Well, Dylan Hudgens, linebacker out of Minnetonka, was named the South's defensive MVP for the All-Star game on Saturday. He joins me. Thanks for doing this. Tell me about the game. Tell me about your approach to this game. And did players go all out? Did it feel like it was a real game, or did you kind of hold back a little bit because worried about injuries?
Well, I feel like my personal approach was a real game, right? I'm in the bank and I'm trying to show out just as much as I am in any playoff game or regular season game. But as for other guys going all out, I feel like we went all out to the point where we're not doing those crazy blows or like taking other people's heads off. We're just trying to keep it clean and make sure everyone gets away healthy.
So for people that don't know, some of the rules were changed for this game. There was no blitzing. You were trying there was no trying to block a kick or a punt or anything like that. So just kind of trying to make it a little bit more under control so that nobody gets hurt. What did it mean to you to be named the defensive MVP for the South, who, by the way, won the game 24-10?
I mean, it means a lot to me. Like just being able to represent my community and everything that Minnetonka stands for as a football program. It means a lot to be able to go out there and make an impact when you're playing against a bunch of other guys who have prestige in their own communities. And to be named a defensive MVP is really special.
You kind of had the best of all worlds, right? The practice was held in your backyard at your football stadium for the South. So you're really you kind of had a nice week all around. What was it like to actually all-star practice on your own field?
It was awesome. It was like a vacation, honestly. They took us away for 3 days, and I wasn't worried about school. I mean, although I was at my school, I didn't even think about it, to be honest. It was just football, 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 and there's nothing I'd rather do than play football with some great guys on the team.
You got a chance to meet players from all over the state, from all different levels of football in Minnesota. What was your takeaway from that?
My takeaway, it had to be that most of these guys, like, we're all the same, really. Everyone from different communities, we're all just the same people striving for the same things, trying to be great and show out for our communities and make sure that we leave a lasting impact on our schools. And it's a positive one at that.
Did you make a friend or two during this time?
I made some great friends.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I had this Bo Bachman. I'll shout out him.
Lakeville South.
He was a great guy. Literally best friends in 3 days. Michael Neighbor, he was another one. I didn't really know him before this week, and now it feels like we've been friends for like years.
What was the best part, Dylan, away from football? What was the best part of the week? Because I know there was other activities other than practice during the week. How would you sum that part up?
It had to be, my favorite part had to be the bonding experiences in the hotel rooms. We all got into, I think it was Bo and Michael's hotel room. We were all piling in there, and the whole like South defense, I think it was just bonding in there. We'd talk about our experiences at our own high schools and how that led to us being here and just how we can spring our lives forward into this next journey of college football.
Yeah, your football journey is just really starting to get going. Next week or next year, rather, you'll be at South Dakota to play football for them. They ended up winning over UC Davis over the weekend, and they play Montana State next. Are you keeping an eye on that? And how excited are you for the next level? And what do you think you have to work on to get yourself ready for the next level?
Hmm. Yeah, I have been keeping an eye on it. We had a few guys on our sideline with their phones, so I was just asking, "Hey, what's the USD game? Like, how's that looking?" Ended up winning 35-21, I think it was. And then as for what I need to work on, I feel like really getting bigger, just
Yep.
putting on weight and still being able to move as fast as I am now and even faster, to be honest. That'll be huge for me, as well as just being able to still keep my leadership role at the next level will be huge. I think that'll just forever be carried with me as long as I'm a football player and I can play with my guys.
You had a great year. Minnetonka had a breakout year. You make it all the way to the state championship game. You unfortunately lose to Maple Grove. How would you sum up your high school career? How would you put it in words?
That's a really good question. I'll think about that. Um, my high school career, it had to be, I feel like exotic is a great word for it.
Okay.
Just because my first 2 years, my sophomore year and then my junior year, it was a first round exit to Lakeville North. Shout out Riley Grossman. And then my junior year, we got bounced by Eastridge. It was both at our place, which was just heartbreaking. And then to just rally with these guys and make it all the way to the last game of the season, guaranteeing ourselves that last practice, as Coach Lombardi says. I mean, there's nothing like it. You really just have to be there to experience the feeling.
What did you learn about yourself as a football player this year?
I learned that taking a step back is huge. Like,
In what
not
way?
you can't be just the sole leader of your team. You have to include everyone and make sure everyone feels welcomed, and anyone can really step up into a leadership role, whether it's a freshman who just got pulled up to a varsity practice for playoffs, or it's that 3-year vet who's been
Yeah.
playing varsity for all this time and is named the captain. Anyone can lead, and you just got to know that everyone belongs here, and you just got to build a brotherhood.
Well, you had a great career at Minnetonka. Congratulations on closing it out in style at the All-Star game on Saturday. It was a lot of fun to watch. Thanks for doing this, Dylan. Good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate that.
To be honest, I'm a trust guy. If I'm going to let you into my home to repair or upgrade something, I'm going to trust you do it right and provide great customer service for peace of mind. Well, Aquarius Home Services was all that and more. They installed a new Connecticut water system in my home, great drinking water from my faucet, by the way, and an air purification system, so no more dust in my home. It's been a game changer. Quality, service, trustworthy people. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended. Watching the All-Star game on Saturday reminded me of so many great football players who have come and gone from Minnesota, like former Buffalo star Treyton Welch, who's winding down his rookie season in the NFL, and his football journey has certainly challenged him in so many ways. Well, Treyton Welch is living the NFL dream right now with the New Orleans Saints on the practice squad of the Saints. The former Buffalo High School football star joins me. Thanks for doing this. Describe what life is like on a practice squad in the NFL. What does it look like day to day?
Yeah, it's obviously competitive, and it's you go through OTAs and then training camp, which is much more competitive as far as everybody's trying to fight for a roster spots, and then once we get here with they they form it based on active roster and then practice squad, and I'm a practice squad guy, so really I'm trying to do everything I can to stay up to date with the playbook, and then also try to give these guys good looks on the field. So day to day, you usually do everything that everybody else does as far as meetings and meals and workouts and all that stuff. But then just during practice, you give the guys a good look. You run the scout cards and stuff. So it's definitely a blessing. Tough to watch from the sidelines, but God's will be done.
So tell me about trying to, I mean, how do you get noticed? How do you get where the coaches notice? Because yeah, you're on the practice squad, you're running, the opposite team's offense so that you're giving your defense looks, but how do you get noticed so that eventually you can be where you want to be?
right. I think it's important to be intentional with the reps that you get. Um, you know, give it your all. Give the defense a good look, or offense, whichever side you're on. But um, give the opponent a good look, and then, like I said, just be intentional in the meeting rooms as well as on the field and practice and everything you do in Indy and everything. And I don't know necessarily if they're still evaluating in that sense. More so, just making sure that you're ready to go if your name is called, and if your name needs to be called. So, yeah, like I said, I think the biggest thing is just being up to date with the playbook, as well as being intentional with everything you do on the field and giving the opponent a good look. The opponent being the offense or defense of the team. So
You were always a bigger wide receiver in high school, a bigger build kind of receiver. But are you surprised you ended up being a tight end in the NFL? Does that seem a little strange to you or not?
it's been a journey for sure. I
Yeah.
started I started as a quarterback, going way back, little leagues, middle school quarterback,
Yeah.
freshman year of high school was a quarterback, and then Aiden came in, and definitely beat me out. So I became a receiver, trying to help in any way I could, to help the team out, and I ended up getting some buzz about maybe he should play tight end in college. And at first I was like,
Ooh.
I don't know about that. I want to be a receiver. I want to catch the ball and everything in between. But then it came down to, again, what can I do to help the team out? What's the best thing that I can do to help the team out? And so transitioning from a receiver to tight end in college was a whole thing. Never really getting down in the 3-point stance in high school, and then going and blocking defensive ends that are seem like sometimes twice your size, but
Yeah.
not really. But it's definitely been a journey as far as that goes. Position changes. I think it's also nice to be able to go from transitioning from receiver to tight end, from high school to college, but then staying with that position going into
Yeah.
this level. So that's definitely been nice to be able to have one position for college and then now. So
So you mentioned Aiden. So let's back up to high school. For those that don't know, Treyton played for Buffalo High School. He played the quarterback on that team was Aiden Bauman. Your senior year was 2018. You had a great year, over 1,000 yards receiving, 60 catches, 13 touchdowns. Your head coach is Todd Bauman, who was a former NFL quarterback. So you got a chance to play in a system that featured receivers. And I'm wondering, as you look back now, what a blessing that was to be able to play in that system and get that notice. And then you end up where you are in the NFL.
yeah, huge blessing. And Coach Bauman was, um, you know, very consistent in being a great head coach, and very intentional in building young men, as well as building young men to be able to play at the next level. And him being able to go through it all, go through how many years he played in the NFL, being able to see it all and do it all, and then coach other players up to, hopefully accomplish that someday. And so I really appreciate him as a coach. And then of course, Aiden as a quarterback, it was a really cool and fun dynamic that we had, and cause he could definitely throw the ball, and coach would, you know, draw up some pretty nice plays. So it was a fun deal for sure.
Is it a little strange that he's playing college football this fall and you're in the NFL? Does that seem a little weird?
Yeah. It's like, man, it would be great to play again together someday, and
Yeah.
hopefully that happens. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you end up going to Wyoming. Did that end up being the great fit for you? Did that end up being the perfect fit?
Yeah, I think ultimately the people there were fantastic, and Coach Moore, the tight end coach there, and then Coach Craig Bowl, the head coach there at the time. He just retired this last year, but
Yep.
I think they were phenomenal mentors in doing that transition from receiver to tight end going into college. Specifically, Coach Moore, my position coach, was working with me day in and day out on how to handle that, and especially being a true freshman and getting some time. It was important that I had a coach that was as intentional as Coach Moore was, and so um, I think a lot of it is about people, about the people that are there, and Wyoming has a great crew of people for sure.
So you kind of find out in a hurry that the NFL is a business. You get signed as an undrafted free agent by Cleveland. You get cut late August. 2 days later, you get picked up, and you've stuck with New Orleans ever since. Your head coach gets fired midseason. So you're kind of seeing the business side of what this looks like. What are your thoughts about that?
It's yeah, people say it is a business, and it definitely is a business, and that's across the board.
Yep.
Head coaches, players, everything in between, and it's just every level that you get to, the more of a business it becomes. High school, it's not a business. There's
Right.
barely any politics in there. It's just playing for the town that you grew up in with your buddies. Trying to get a win every Friday night, Friday Night Lights. It's the real deal, And then getting to college, it's a little bit more of a business where there's scholarships involved, and there's this and that and the other, and head coaches have contracts and all this. But and then once you get to the NFL, it's there's some dynamic of the players are on contracts, the head coaches are on contract, everybody's on a contract, and everybody's in this business of like, what have you done for me lately, and so
Yeah.
it's definitely it's and rightfully so. These guys are getting paid, and
Right.
coaches are getting paid, so, and it's all to perform, which can be tough sometimes. It's all about performance. It's performance based, and so but yeah, one day at a time, trust in the Lord, and do what you can do today to better yourself and better the team around you.
Performance based and results based. If
Right,
the performance may be there, but if the results aren't there, if the
right,
wins aren't there,
right.
then then it's a tougher road. Take me back to, was there anybody that gave you some advice at the beginning of your football journey? I've got high school players and coaches who watch this podcast. Is there some advice that somebody gave you along the way that has stuck with you this whole time? That maybe when things are tough, that you hear that in the back of your mind. Was there something? Was there somebody? Was there something said to you that has stuck with you all this time?
I think ultimately it's find your why, because I remember a college coach when I was being recruited, looked at me and said something along the lines of, if you want to play college football, you really got to love college football. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, you got to love college football. You got to love football, but what does that really mean? And he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, you got to love football. You can't just like it,
Yeah.
because a lot of people like football and then they find
Right.
out real quick that they don't love football. And so, and at the end of the day, you got to find your why. You got to find your why of why you play football, why you're doing this. And ultimately for me and the mentorship that I had growing up with my dad and mom and grandparents is like, find your why. And my why was my identity in Christ, my relationship with Christ,
Yep.
and doing it all for his glory. And so once you find your why, then you can hold on to that when it gets tough, and the days that it gets tough, and the days that you're like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know if I really love football, but you play football because of your why and your love of the game. And so, and that's something else that, the further along you get, the more it's like, man, you really got to dig into that why. Why do you play football? And really fun. So, long story short, find your why. Why
Yeah.
do you play football? And hold on to that and cling to that and go after it every day.
Is there something you learned about yourself along this football journey that you didn't know about yourself, or that you learned about yourself?
I think it more just understanding that it gets really tough, but at the end of the day, don't shy away from that toughness,
Yeah.
go through the trials and tribulation, understanding that it builds character and character hope. And so, it's not a why me mentality when you go through something that's tough, because football is a game that, especially when you get to the college and this level, like, it takes no prisoners. It's something that, gets
Yeah.
pretty serious at times as far as mentally, physically, and everything in between. And so at the end of the day, it's like, it builds character and understanding that it's not a why me mentality. It's okay, what can I do with this now? I'm going through this tough time. What can I do with it? How can I grow from this? How can I get better from this? So it's more just understanding and growing in that area than, I guess I would say that it is the character, producing perseverance, producing character, and character hope.
I find it fascinating when I talk to current NFL players, former NFL players, and you ask them about high school, they light up. There's just something about playing Friday Night Lights that even after they're out of the game, it still resonates. How about for you? What was Friday nights like for you at Buffalo High School?
Amazing, and I do remember Coach Bauman talking about, man, high school football is like none other, and he's played at every level, and he's done a great job at every level. And he just would tell us, man, don't take this for granted, because doing it with your guys that you grew up with, doing it in the town that you grew up in, with the people that you grew up with watching you as well, and the parents that raised you, and everything in between. It's like, man, it's a pretty special deal, because like I said, the more you get into it, the more of a business it becomes.
Yep.
And, the more isolated you can be from that community, maybe, even though it shouldn't be that way. But just there's a sense of community in high school that you just can't break. You can't beat that community that you had in high school and playing under the Friday Night Lights in front of the town that you grew up in. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget when Coach Bauman said that, and it's like, man, that makes more sense the older you get. You know what I mean? And it's definitely something that I hold on to. High school football is, and I was able to get to one of my brother's games not too long ago, which was a blessing, because I haven't been able to see him play a ton live.
Yeah.
And it just kind of brought me back again. Like, man, this is fun.
It's kind of like when your parents tell you something and you go, and then years later you go, oh God, they were right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. There's a reason that they're my parents, Yeah.
Last
sure.
question. There will be life after football. What does life after football look like for you?
I've been asked that before. And to me, I want to honor the Lord and pursue the Lord in everything I do, and whatever that may look like. But right now, like, my answer has been and is, I don't really necessarily know, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But if, you want to go a route of maybe something in business or something like that, but I think I'm okay not knowing necessarily what would be after football,
Yeah.
because I'm going to pursue this, wholeheartedly, and then kind of whenever that time comes, because it comes for everybody, just kind of figure it out at that time, and not that I don't have a plan going forward, but it's more so just I'm okay not being caught up in trying to have everything, planned out, if you will. So I'm okay not knowing, but if I had to put a label on it, maybe something in business, something along those lines. My dad is in business, so maybe follow along those lines.
For you, the most important thing right now is to be in the moment,
Right.
because this moment only lasts a certain amount of time, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And to make the most of it.
Right. Yep.
Has it been as cool as you thought it would be to be an NFL player?
It's interesting, because you grow up watching it, you grow up being a fan of it, loving it, wanting to get there. And then once you get there, you kind of see what happens inside, and see the business of it, and everything. But no, it's definitely, like I said, a blessing. And to be able to make the relationships and make the connections with the guys here, the more people you meet, the more you understand, like, everybody kind of knows everybody, and it's kind of cool that way. It's a cool circle of influence, and a cool circle of people that are part of the league, So, yeah, definitely a blessing, and definitely worth it,
Well, fantastic. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it so much. I wish you nothing but the best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
These days, you can get a checking account, a credit card, or a mortgage just about anywhere. But what you can't always find is the personal touch of a neighborhood credit union like True Stone Financial. I've known the folks over at True Stone for years. They put people first. They take time with you, they get to know you, and they use their expertise to connect you with services that help you achieve financial well being. True Stone is a not for profit financial institution owned by the very people they serve, and they're in your neighborhood. Visit truestone.org and get to know them. And they can't wait to get to know you too. Truestone is an equal housing opportunity lender. It's not uncommon to have a female playing football at a varsity level in Minnesota, but now we're starting to see girls football take off as a spring sport in this state. And this is an all call to coaches, schools, and female athletes who want to be part of flag football at a competitive level. And I talked with a man behind it. Well, Jeff Erdmann is the head football coach at Rosemount High School, the boys football program. He's also the head football coach of the girls flag football program at Rosemount. And if you haven't heard about girls flag football, you're probably not alone, but it is starting to take off a little bit. And Jeff is here to talk a little bit about this. First of all, just explain what happened last year with girls flag football or this past spring, I guess, and just explain a little bit about what it is and I guess what the hope is it could be.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Randy. Last year, the Minnesota Vikings really kind of became significantly more aggressive in trying to promote girls football. And so we did a pilot program where 4 teams from southeastern Minnesota played a 10-game regular season schedule and a postseason, and just to kind of work through it and what kind of funding is needed, getting officials on board, seeing what kind of interest there was from girls. And it was a resounding success. All 4 programs involved had incredible feedback from our athletes, wanting to play more, wanting to have more opportunities. So now the Minnesota Vikings are really kind of going after and trying to find, our goal is to get 32 schools on board, where we have 32 schools playing a 10-game schedule this spring, 2025. And so the biggest piece of that for us is trying to find coaches at each school. And, the experiences for the girls were awesome. I think 12 of our 12 games, 5 of them came down to the last possession.
Oh, wow.
And it's knit and grit tight. And, for them to be able to score touchdowns and pick sixes and all, it was awesome. And, those experiences in our program, almost all of our girls are multi-sport girls. I mean, we had hockey players, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, volleyball. We had dancers. It runs the gamut. The interest in football by females is growing every year. And, selfishly from the tackle football perspective, why would we not want women involved in the game of football? It's going to help us with finding coaches down the road. It's going to help us with officiating issues and for people to have the opportunity to play this beautiful game.
So let's back up a second. What were the 4 teams that were involved last spring? And what were some issues? Were there some issues that came up that you said, okay, we need to figure this part of this out? What were some of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the 4 schools were Pine Island, La Crescent, Houston, and Rosemount. Now, if you look at the school sizes between those,
they're so diverse.
Absolutely. I mean, you've probably got 1A schools up to 6A schools represented. And what we found is that the size of the school really doesn't matter because it's 5-on-5.
Okay.
And so if we tried doing something like this in tackle football, it would not be a good thing.
Right.
But in girls flag, it's a different thing. You can be a smaller school and compete. Back to your question about things maybe that stood out that
were issues
for us. Yeah. Most girls sports, their coaches promote year-round involvement in their sport. And so having multi-sport athletes be involved in a non-Minnesota State High School League activity, that was kind of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so things we did, we only practiced 2 times. I think some teams maybe practiced 3 times a week. We usually went on Sundays. We went on non-common type practice times to be able to accommodate our athletes. And, we were very aggressive with our girls and saying, hey, if you have conflicts with, section girls track, you don't have to play that week. If your coach is worried about injury, we're going to accommodate that. We just want to give girls the opportunity to play. And it's been a resounding success.
So let me back up and ask another question then. Let's say, for example, a girl who's in another sport, she gets hurt playing, and it can happen. It can happen in any sport, you know. You don't have to have contact in order for somebody to get hurt. So what happens then if it's not a sanctioned high school sport? Do they all have to sign a waiver? What does all of that look like?
Yeah. So when we had to create a club at Rosemount High School. So each school might
Sure.
have their own kind of nuances on how they bring people on board with the liability and insurance type items.
Yep.
And then the Vikings are involved with working with the school on all of those things and the financial part of it. And so, from a coach's sports world perspective, kids can be injured in any variety of ways. And,
Correct.
if it's through something like this where they're pioneers out in the game of football, I can think of a lot more worse ways for kids to get injured, and they have a ton of fun with it. I don't know if we had any injuries last year.
Knock on wood.
Hopefully that continues. Yeah.
So does it look like 7-on-7 a little bit? I guess that's kind of what I vision it looks like if we're thinking about what does it feel like, look like. Am I right about that?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
With,
Okay.
with 5-on-5, we play on the width of the field is about just a little less than half of a regular football field.
Okay.
And so the 50-yard line, the middle of the field, it's usually the 25, is the one first down that you get. And so you have 4 downs to get to get past the 50-yard line to get a new set of downs. And then that's it. And so the games are only 45 minutes. It's running time. We play double headers actually. So we only play one time a week, but we play a double header,
Which
and
makes
this
sense.
with the multi-sport athletes as well. And we're done in 2 hours. And there's a lot of plays that get in. We had our quarterback, I think, and she played in 10 games and she had 36 touchdowns. It is the ball is being slung all over the place.
So I grew up high school, girls basketball in Iowa was 5-on-5, 5 on the offensive side, 5 on the defensive side. Is it kind of like that? Do you rotate so that some kids play both way? How does it work?
Well, it kind of depends on, we don't want to put girls in a situation where they're not going to be competitive.
Okay.
And so if I'm an athlete that maybe can't play at the varsity level, maybe I'll play you on defense, if we get up a couple scores, that type of thing. So, but yeah, there's definitely skill sets. There are some girls that, maybe struggle with catching the ball, but they're great with pulling flags and they're really, really quick. And so, we do try to specialize as much as we can. And it also allows more, girls to get to play.
So what did you find, Jeff, was the biggest reward for you as a coach?
Seeing the excitement on their faces. We had a game down in Pine Island. I went out and it's we have to drive down and score to win the game. And I go out and I'm in the huddle. We had a timeout and I look at the girls and I'm like, hey, everything comes down to this. And our quarterback looks at me and starts giggling. And I'm like, oh, okay. They're just out here having fun. And sure enough, we go down and we score and it was just pure fun. The Vikings allowed us and La Crescent to play at halftime of one of the Viking preseason games. I'll never forget that in my life. It was an absolute blast for the girls
awesome.
to go out and play in front of 50-some thousand people. It was really exciting. So, compared to Friday Night Lights and tackle in the fall, significantly less stress for coaches. Maybe that'll pick up as the competitiveness picks up and there's more that, girls are invested. But this first year was pure just fun and joy of girls getting an opportunity to play.
So how can schools get involved? How can girls get involved? And let's say that there's some girls at schools that they're not going to provide that for them. Can they go somewhere else to play? How does it work? What's your hope here?
Yeah. So right now, the flag football is going to become an Olympic sport, I think in 3 years in 2028. And so the goal of the Vikings is to
Very
have this
smart.
be a state high school league sponsored sport by that time. And so what we're doing is the Vikings team and myself, we are reaching out to coaches and athletic directors to find names of people that would be great leaders of programs. I think every school has one of these three people: an older football coach who's got lots of experience and would love to have just a fun gig in the spring and doesn't coach in the spring, a young coach who maybe wants to lead and provide that type of leadership for a program, or female coaches that maybe haven't had an opportunity to play football, but they're great coaches.
Yeah.
And so the sport of flag, we can get them up to speed. I'm going to be assisting coaches in getting ready for the season so that we can try to remove any hurdles that coaches or schools might have about providing this opportunity for girls. The Vikings we're very committed to making sure it is a smooth, seamless process for them to be able to offer incredible experiences.
So is there a financial obligation for the schools, or are the Vikings taking care of this? How does that work?
The Vikings are flipping the bill.
Or even if it's 32 teams?
Yeah. They've got a pretty significant uniform donation from Nike per state that they get to dig into.
Wow.
The busing, the coaching. Last year, we didn't pay a cent. Our school doesn't pay a cent. It is all funded by the Vikings. This is an incredible financial commitment on their part, and it kind of just speaks to the value they see in this for girls to be able to have this opportunity to play football. And so, from a school's perspective, there's obviously concerns that athletic directors might have about
Sure.
girls being spread too thin as far as multi-sport athletes. The other part of this is, we do have girls that maybe aren't in a lot of sports that love football. The first player on our team to catch a touchdown pass in the Viking halftime was a girl that plays no other sports at Rosemount, but she's been in our summer flag football league for the last 4 summers. And so I thought that was just absolutely appropriate that she would get the first touchdown.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so hopefully, in education, there's a lot of people that do care about students and providing opportunities. And so we're hoping that when we reach out to the head coaches, the tackle head coaches, that they'll take the time to say, you know what, I need to do my part in growing our game. And so, yeah, I am going to think about teachers or maybe coaches on our staff that would be great leaders for this. And if they could reach out to the Vikings, myself, at gogirlfootball@gmail.com, that would be awesome, because we will get you up to speed and try to get, we'd love to reach that goal of 32 teams this spring.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's check back in with each other when I resume my football show next fall, sometime maybe in the summer, and let's find out where this thing is, because it sounds fun. It sounds exciting. And I can tell just by talking to you, I've known you a long time, you're excited, which I think is pretty cool.
It is. And the number of people jumping on board is fun to see. Not just, coaches or the Vikings, but officials. We've got organizations that are looking at this and saying, oh, this is a whole nother opportunity for us to bring female officials into and grow our associations. And so all of those things, there's so many wins across the board for sports and for female athletes here that it's a great thing. And we really appreciate you helping us have that voice and getting this message out to the schools in Minnesota.
Well, I appreciate your time, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Take care, Andy. Thanks.
We all have go-tos, right? Well, mine is Culver's, and all you have to do is look at my social media for proof. I eat at Culver's almost every day, and I love matching my order number to a star athlete. But more than anything else, I love the food. It's fresh, it's delicious, and it's comfort. I feel good after stopping at Culver's. The people are friendly, the food is made to order, and it just makes me happy, truly. So if you're looking for your go-to, I have a recommendation: Culver's. And our Culver's Player of the Week is number 3, Nolan Ginsky of Owatonna. The star receiver caught 2 touchdown passes for the South and was named the South's offensive MVP for Saturday's All-Star game. Congratulations. Next week on this show, former Vikings linebacker and coach and current Viking broadcaster Pete Bursich will join me in studio. Plus, she was the first ever white hat in Minnesota high school football this year. Meet referee Leah Berard next week. For producer Alex Haugen and the great folks here at Talk North, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.